Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jacob Restituto, and I'm a musician from Northport, New York. And today I have the absolute pleasure of having Shndo here on the channel. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. It's a really you've done some really cool things in your career, and as I was doing research, you've done even more than I even realized. So I can't wait for us to get into it, actually. And I want to say thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Sweet. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So you, like I said, you've done plenty of things in your career, and you also make your own music, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But one of the things, some of the things we're going to be talking about in this interview and in this chat is your
Mhm.
work with Justin Bieber. You work with Lecrae, actually, which I thought was really cool. You work your own personal work and how you balance all those different things. So the goal with these interviews is I love to inspire up and coming artists, including myself. You know, I still consider myself up and coming, but
Sure.
I love inspiring these artists like myself. But no, there was nobody to look up to when I was starting. There was, it was me, and then there was like Ed Sheeran, and that seemed like he was on Mars, and I was here, and I
Yeah.
was like, how do I get there? So I love dissecting, some people's stories and saying like, hey, and sharing the fact that hey, Shindo did it, so can you, and he, like it's possible to make it in an industry because everybody else is saying it's impossible, right?
For sure. That's literally like all my life. I was just been told that like this was not realistic at all. Like I'm still processing it to this day. I'm like, wow, this really happened. Like I'm here now. Like what?
So tell me about that. Actually, I love if we could act. That's a perfect segue into a little bit of your history. Like, did you grow up
Yeah.
making music? Did you start later in that in life? And what did your family say when
Um,
you wanted to do it full time?
oh God, family. They did not approve. They're like, "What are you doing, buddy?" No. So I started making beats when I was like 13 years old, and I was living in the Dominican Republic at the time with my dad, and I just remember going to school and like uh, meeting. It was my friend Gerald. He told me about this program called Fruity Loops, and that's literally how it started. It was like I was like, "Oh, you can make beats on this program? Okay." And like at the time, I feel like we were all like battle rapping or something. Like we were
Yeah,
just so it was like cool to like have beats because we would like download beats. Like I think it was like LimeWire at the time too. Like those days. So it was like I would put in an instrumental and then it would just be a bunch of like random instrumentals. It'd be like I think there were like DJ Premier instrumentals in there, like a bunch of like just like classic ones that I just didn't know. It was just a beat we just wanted to rap on. So kind of started from there and it was just like, okay, I want to make my own beats and then maybe like write to them or whatever. And that's how it kind of like started really, like the creation, like the production and stuff.
that's actually pretty wild. So, how? Okay, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
Yeah. I'm 29.
Okay, cool. So it's been about 16 years of you in the industry,
Yeah.
and I also admire the fact that you weren't like three. You know what I mean? Like so often,
Oh
sometimes we hear
yeah.
these stories where these artists are like, "Oh yeah, I started banging on the drums when I was like three." And I'm like, bro, like that wasn't me because that was my story is actually very similar to yours. I didn't really start. I actually hated music, especially like the traditional music, like having to
Really?
play the trumpet, like I don't know if it was like that with the DR, but like growing up in elementary school, you were required to learn an instrument. So I picked the trumpet, and
Oh
like
yeah.
I
Yep.
hated it because it was like so structured, and I had to practice 30 minutes a day, and I had to get my parents to sign. It was like so, and I just did not. That did not work for me. Until I
Yeah.
found something that I actually really liked, which was like making my own music and playing the guitar and piano. It was so different. It was so much more free,
For
and playing the music that I wanted to instead of music that was written 400 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, facts. No, well, I actually when I was going to school, like I moved to Dominican Republic when I was like in middle school.
Okay.
So I was living in Florida, Hollywood, Florida, and I was going to school there. I remember they get like it was like the recorder or something, a little.
Yeah.
That was like the one I was like, what is this? But all right. I mean, I wasn't at the time. I was like, whatever. Like this is just like a one of those classes where you can just goof off,
Yeah.
like one of those. But yeah, then later on it was just I don't know. And then I picked up piano like later probably when I was like 17 or something, 16, 17. And I kind of just would play like I wasn't trying to become like a pianist per se, but I was just like if I can get the ideas down and then like take it to the next level like on the computer, like and I would just do that really.
Absolutely, man. I love that. It's funny how similar the progression actually is. Like I love playing the piano. I really like one, but I started to play the stuff that I liked. I started playing the
Yeah,
music, like learning covers and stuff. Like, oh,
covers,
how's the
covers.
Fray play? I'm a big like fan of like the Fray or stuff like that. Like,
Okay.
like how did they play that, or how did whatever at the time? I think it was like some super popular Beyonce Rihanna song that everybody was playing on the piano. Like, how do I play that? Not like
Unfaithful. That was the first song.
I think that was it. That's
Really?
probably it. Probably is one of those like massively famous tracks by them. I think it was Beyonce Rihanna, and it was like just huge piano part, all piano driven.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's so funny, man.
Wild. That's crazy.
So you did you go to school for music, or did you that like how did you go to school at all for anything? How did you end up in the music industry? What's next for that? You graduate high
Um,
school and then what?
I graduated high school, and then I was actually in piano class in high school too for a little bit, and then like jazz. But like
Cool.
funny, like in jazz class, it was like the piano section had it was just like three of us, like three pianists or whatever. I guess we would call them keyboardists, because it was just like a little small segment that they would just like throw a piano in, and we would just be like, "Duh, duh, 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 duh," and then everything else was just like the horns and like whatever. And I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then that was like it. But like after I graduated high school, went to college, went to Broward College for like a year. And I was
Did you
just like, what
study
am I doing
music
here?
or it's something totally
Uh,
different?
no, it was I was trying to get my associates in arts kind of thing. And I was just taking, the regular like the English, the 1101 and all those things. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here really, but my parents are happy that I'm here and you know, that sort of thing. I did take a music appreciation class. That was pretty cool. That was the coolest class, honestly. Obviously, because I was like interested in it. But
S-
yeah, that was
s-
about it.
Did you drop out of school or did you finish it?
High school?
No, college.
Yeah, I definitely dropped out. I'm a college dropout.
So am I. Very similar. It's funny how parallel our stories are. I went to one
Crazy.
year of school. I actually studied music for a year in school, but then I was
Oh
like,
wow.
nah, this isn't for me. I want to do music full time, and I dropped that also. So
Exactly.
how did your family take you dropping out of school, especially because you dropped a little line of your parents being very they wanted you to go. So how did they
Yeah.
handle that?
It wasn't the best, but like I remember at the time too, I was just like, I'm gonna really like focus on this. Like I sold my Xbox, like so I didn't want any distractions. Like I was just gonna do this and
Wow.
like make it happen. You know what I mean? So it was like that, and then I started to just work with a bunch of producers like online. I would just like meet people online. At the time, it was like SoundClick was really cool, and people were like it was Johnny Giuliano and like Epic the Don, which is my bro. That's who I like met like a bunch of people through like how it works. You meet one person and it leads to like so many people. And that's like ultimately how it got me to, working with Pooh Bear and working on Changes. I was working on the Changes album, like, and I didn't make it on that album. But
Mm.
Pooh Bear was like, "Oh, you're gonna make it on the next one." I was like, "All right, cool."
So tell me about that process actually, because I think a process that is not talked about a lot in the industry, like, is
Yeah,
the songs that maybe either get cut from an album or just maybe they have a couple demo ideas that never go anywhere. Because that's gotta be a bit of a letdown. You're like, oh, I'm working with Bieber, and
oh,
then nothing happens with it. And I don't
yeah.
think that's talked about. We only hear about the wins. So I would love to hear about the losses because I think we can learn a lot from those, but also inspire people that hey, everybody has those moments too.
Take those L's, yeah. I mean, it's all about like I don't know. I feel like at that, like it wasn't so much of a big deal for me because I already have dealt with like rejection and like not making it, and so I was like, oh, whatever, that's cool.
I
And I just
That's a
keep
hit.
working, you know
That's
what
the
I mean?
truth.
And so I was just like not numb to it, but I was like, what's it called, thick skin, like to that kind of stuff now. So yeah, I just kept working, and that's it.
I think that that's actually more profound than you realize because that is so
Yeah,
true. I think so many artists, especially when they're starting off, don't like the rejection hurts. And I mean I remember it hurting when I first started. I'm sure you do as well. But like you're totally right. Like you almost develop this thick skin, but also like this lack of I don't, almost to some degree getting your hopes up. You don't believe anything. Oh, at least myself, I don't believe anything until it's written in paper or already done. Because
yeah,
there have been
for
so
sure.
many false promises in the music industry that it's like, oh, you'll be on this next oh, you'll be do this, I'll come back and do this. It's like, and so many things have fallen through that it's like, hey, I'll see it when I believe it, your word means nothing until it's done,
Exactly.
and I won't be devastated if it's that case, So
Exactly.
that's a really important lesson for people to learn. I think really early is just get used to the no, because you get 1,000 no's, you're that much closer to a yes.
You get that one yes, boy.
A hundred
That's
percent.
it.
So tell me about working with Pooh Bear, because I was, like I said before we started filming, I was doing there's some interview actually. It's a typewritten interview of you with you, and I don't recognize who did it. I don't remember who did it, but it was really a really well done interview. They really got some really good questions, and a couple of my ideas came from that. So I want to give a shout out to that whoever did that. Um,
For sure.
but I
Shout out
would,
you guys.
yeah, shout out to you guys.
I remember.
I would love to hear how you got with Pooh Bear, because he's a pretty big name in the industry, but also he's been working with Justin for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny too. It's like a random story, but like I remember this was like I don't know, probably like 7 years ago or something like that. I was sent a song, like somebody sent me a song that Pooh Bear wrote, and I was like, whoa, this is Pooh Bear, like this is Justin Bieber's like songwriter, producer, whatever. And I was like, I don't even know, I don't even want to touch it because
Yeah.
I'm not like good enough yet. Like I felt like I wasn't good enough at the time. Like I didn't want to like embarrass myself, I guess,
Can
in
I
a way.
pause you really quick? Can you
Yeah,
backtrack a little? When you say you were sent the song, what does that mean? Like, is there somebody to work on it for you? Like, you were going to work on it, or
yeah, to like work on it, yeah.
okay,
So like it was just like a stripped down song, like just like chords and like Pooh Bear just singing. He had like the full song. I forgot the name of the song, but yeah, like at the time I was like, man, I don't know what to do, and I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to lose this. Like I don't, you know what I mean? It was just like the reputation or whatever.
yeah.
And then fast forward to like now, and that's like my brother. Like when we work like on songs, like it's mind boggling to
So
put
did you
it.
follow through with that production? Did you end up
I
going
did
through with
not.
it? Oh no, no, you bailed on that one.
I just let it go. I just like nah. I don't want
So then,
to.
how did you end up meeting? Like, how did that connect
So
happen then?
so the way I met Pooh Bear was through a couple of producers, honestly. But like to kind of keep this long story short, it was through this guy named Brian. He's a super talented producer. He introduced me to this young producer named Kid Culture, and he's actually one of the producers on Yummy,
Oh wow, cool.
and Sasha Sirota as well. So
What was
those
that
two
name?
guys, Sasha Sirota,
Okay.
yeah, he's another writer on Yummy as well, and a bunch of songs on Changes. Really, he's insane. That's my brother too. And so like those two guys basically, brought me in to like help, work on Changes, the album. And yeah, we were working, and then I remember me and Kid were working on a song for Sasha. It was for his project at the time. It was called Bottle It Up. And Sasha played that song for Pooh Bear, just to, just he was playing it, I guess, in the studio session. And I guess Pooh Bear loved it so much. He was like, who else is on this? And that's how like it kind of happened. And then eventually Pooh Bear called me like at 2 in the morning, like at a studio. He was just working. So you could tell like he was working like on the phone. He was like, hello. He's like, happy birthday, So it's like I was like, whoa. He just jumped on a like phone call like 2 a.m. Like me and my manager were just talking to Pooh Bear. Like it was just crazy. I was like, what is happening right now?
Dude, that is so wild, man. It's kind of almost funny how things kind of go full circle. Though you had the opportunity to work with Pooh Bear, and it's almost like it didn't work out then, but then it worked out in another way. Like it's
What's
just
meant to
it's.
be is meant to be, man. That's literally what.
I agree. I agree.
Um,
It's very fascinating how things work out like that. Um,
right?
very very fascinating. That's cool. That's actually really wild how that story. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. But it's just through continual work, and
yeah,
you kept working, and even though to some degree, we sometimes let the fear kind of creep in, and you didn't end up working on that original track. It still worked
yeah,
out. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's
That
it's crazy.
yeah, that's so cool, man. So, I mean, I'm sure you've talked about it a whole bunch of times, so I don't want to like beat a dead horse kind of thing. Like, but had it. So tell me in a briefly, because I don't want you to feel bored with this question.
No, no.
Talk to me about Peaches.
Peaches. So Peaches originally originated from an Instagram video that Justin posted September 7th last year. And I remember that day like so clearly. It's like so vivid. And I was working like I was working on some other song or like idea, and then I just so happened to like take a break, and like I went on my phone, of course, Instagram, and like it was literally like the first or second post that came up, and he's like playing the piano. He was posting like a lot of like ideas he was just working on at the time, just like jamming like sessions, like you know, like live streams or whatever. And he would just post them, and then this one just like jumped out. He had like a whole hook like written, and then at the end of that, he had like this little piano jam that he did, which is the actual intro to the song now, and that's like playing throughout like the beat. So I basically took that, screen recorded it, threw it into Ableton, and like sped it up to like 90 BPM because it was kind of slow. Uh, and I was just thinking like kind of like a summer jam. Like I've always wanted to be a part of like a summer hit song too. So I was like, man, maybe like something like what was that one song? I'm trying to remember the reference I was thinking of. It was Catch Feels, I think it's called.
Okay.
With I think it was Pharrell and Katy Perry, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I had that like that was like the reference, and like so I did some like drums, and and then I sent it over to Harv. I texted it to Harv because he's like his an amazing bassist, instrumentalist. So he would just like help like thicken it up and make it like huge. So basically, we got in the studio. Like I sent it to Harv. He loved it. We got in the studio, worked on it. He sent it or texted it to Justin, and then Justin loved it. He recut this like the hook, did the verse. Then like the next week he got it to Giveon, and then it was just like boom, boom, boom. I was like, what is this?
Well, you saw my. I don't know if you saw my face when you said September 7th, because I was like, wait, that song came out like not too long after that. So like I appreciate how fast it was done, because the industry can be so slow.
Fastest one, yeah, that's the fastest song that ever like I ever worked on to come out that fast. Really,
it's so that is such a cool story, and the fact that like it's almost like it wasn't intentionally supposed to happen, and it almost like you made it happen, in the sense that, you know, he wasn't sending it out being like, he wasn't sending it to any producer being like, hey, can you do, he would just like, you were literally bored at work, looked at it, I was like, let me mess with this, and it came out cool, and then they liked it. Like, how crazy. And now you're nominated for a Grammy.
Insane. 6 times Grammy nominated for like the albums, like 2 times, and then like 4 times for the Peaches. Like
holy smokes, I didn't realize there's that many. That's crazy. So let me ask you this, actually, a follow-up to that point.
Yeah.
Now being a nominated Grammy producer is the proper way to say it. Does that actually change your life in any way, or is it just life as normal? I'm curious about that.
I mean, it definitely does. I just don't really look at those things like I don't know. I never really like it's an honor, you know what I mean? But I just really don't. Not that I'm not gonna say I don't care, but like it's cool. I don't know. Like I'm not gonna like, because I feel like those, if you let it get to you, like you can become like a super egotistical, like, you know, like bastards.
Hey, you be you, man.
Yeah.
You be you. No, I totally understand that, but and I respect that actually highly, in the sense that like not letting it get to your head. You just, you know,
For
business
sure.
as casual, or as usual. But I'm curious if like more opportunities are presented, or like if you now message somebody, be like, hey, I'd love to work with so and so. This is what I've done. Does that like carry weight now, or?
Definitely helps. For sure. Yeah.
I've seen things, obviously never not been nominated for a Grammy, so on a different level, I've seen things. Not yet. Amen to that. I received that 100%. I've noticed like some things you might think are a big deal, and then it's almost like business as usual. It's like, oh, it actually, I thought this was going to be a bigger deal than it actually was, and it didn't change, you know, work or life or anything in any way. And I was curious if something like a Grammy held weight, or if it doesn't. And people, because I think sometimes people think that like we hold these things to such standards, and then when we get them, we're like, oh, it's actually not that big of it. For example, personally, like my channel just hit 100K subscribers, which I was very, very excited for working up. But then like on the day of, I'm like, my life's really not that different. Like from 98 to 100,
Life goes on.
Exactly, you know, like, and I'm like, we think of these things like it's gonna be like this, like now all these opportunities and it's like, nah, it's just, you just keep working, you know, and at least for myself. And I was curious, of course, more opportunities. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like all of that is 100% true. Like, I mean, things are gonna change. Like lifestyle, I guess, changes a little bit, whatever. But I mean, life kind of just goes on, man. Like we're
I
just
hear
out
you.
here just making more music and inspiring people to do
I
what they
love
love.
that.
You know what I mean?
I love
That's
that.
it.
That's cool. So you going to the Grammys next month?
I am
Ooh,
very nice.
shoot, man.
That's crazy.
That's cool. Is there a special someone in your life? Are you taking someone? Or are you going by yourself? How does that work?
I'm trying to figure out how that all like works. I literally just got an email about it. Like they're gonna like contact me, I think within the next like 2 weeks or so, or a
Who even?
week.
How does the Grammys even get your email? How does it even work?
Well, I mean, my management kind of like figured their way in. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let you guys do that. I don't know. I don't know how,
I love that,
how I'm
man.
going to talk to those people, but yeah, no, it's super cool, man.
That's tremendous. I love that. So that's a perfect segue into the question. Another question I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about management and
Mhm.
how you knew, like you started at 13, and how you knew, at what point was it relevant for you to get management, and how did you find your team?
Man, it's funny. It's just like everything that has happened in my life. It kind of just came to me in a natural way. I wasn't seeking management at the time. Uh, and I met my manager Cheryl through it was my first job at Memorial Regional Hospital. That's where I worked in Florida. It was through a coworker of mine who I remember I kept putting off because he had told me that his son like did music and blah blah blah, and I was like, yeah, we gotta link up, whatever. And it just kind of kept like I was there for 2 years, and then eventually I finally met with this guy's son, and he was being managed by Cheryl at the time, and so he introduced me to Cheryl and like Ricky, Nitty Gritty. He's known as Nitty Gritty. Uh, and yeah, that's literally how I met Cheryl. And I remember like at the time, like she was like really excited and like interested in like managing me. I was like, wait, what? Like I don't even really have anything going on with my life right now. Like this is like interesting. But no, I felt like I just had like this gut feeling that I don't know her wisdom. Like I needed like someone to kind of guide me because it was I kind of knew what I was doing, but I kind of you don't really know. I know how to do the music part, but like the business, that's a whole other like story. So it was, and
Sure.
she has a couple of her own businesses, and she was running them and still running them to this day. So it's like I need someone to like know that world too, because I don't know this world. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
just the guidance, honestly, too,
Hmm.
is just really important.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think that's a problem that artists have is they find management either too early or too late. And I'm
Yeah,
curious, I would love to help artists find management at the perfect time because, they find it too early and the management screws them. They find it too late
exactly.
and
Yep.
they're already screwed by the industry, or unless they, some people don't. I mean, I think every artist needs management at some point. It's just figuring out when
For
management's the right time.
sure. Because it's like, man, that's a lot. Like, so are you gonna? It's like you're juggling. I feel like you're gonna drop something. Like it's just gonna. You know what I mean?
Now, do you have
But
an
like,
agent as well, or that book stuff for you,
no.
or is that all through management for you?
Just management right now. You know, that's about it. Not yet. I don't have an agent yet. We'll see later on.
Yeah, exactly. Keyword. I love that. That's cool. So backing track a little bit to before Pooh Bear, before Justin Bieber, before Harv, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I read that your first placement was with on Lecrae's Church Clothes,
Yeah. Sure.
which it's funny how Volume 3. It's funny how life works out in the sense that like I love having these interviews, and it's funny how life works in the sense that like distinctly remember listening to that album, so I heard that
Uh,
track 100%. Man, I've
uh,
heard that before 100%.
Gangland and like the Forever. There's another one.
Yeah,
Deja
man.
Vu.
Yes, like I distinctly remember that one. Is church? Let me just confirm. Is Church Clothes the one with like the I think it's like red clothes on the outside of it or something like that?
I think I feel like it was like kind of like brown. It kind of had this like 1930s or 40s like New York or not New York, but just kind of that like era.
Oh, let me Google it really quick. Church Clothes.
I kind of like
Oh
the look,
yes,
right?
yes, yes. I distinctly remember this one. Yes. Okay, I was thinking Volume 1 in my head with the photo, but I distinctly remember this one. This
Oh, okay.
Yes, distinctly remember he released this one. Um, yes, 100%. So very
Yeah,
cool. So I still, again, I was just thinking the wrong image. I distinctly remember when he released that because it was right around the election, and I remember he was like referencing things in that. So I distinctly
yeah,
remember that.
yep.
So very that's so it's just funny how things work out, man. Like it's cool to see the circle of like circle
Super.
of life.
And the way I got like involved in that project was through S1. He's like a incredible. He's a Grammy award winning producer. Like at the time, like working with him was like, whoa, like I'm working with a Grammy award winning producer. Like who am I? And I remember he did like the way I got to like work with him was like through a it was a contest.
Oh
He
wow.
had like a loop pack or something, like a melody pack or something, and you basically make a beat out of whatever melodies that was in that pack. And like I think I won like second place, and he it was like a Skype call. That was like the prize. And then we basically that's how we talked. And then like I've met him before too, because I would do beat battles too, and like in Miami, and I would just like kind of just go out there and try to meet like-minded individuals and just do these beat battles, like like on some 8 Mile thing, but like for producers. But yeah, I like met him, and then that's literally how we started working, like for real, like through the Skype call. And then that's how he just kept sending me like melodies, and I would just do drums to them, and I'll send them back and be like, "Yo, this is crazy. Change this, to blah blah blah." And that's how I kind of started learning more, like how to. I mean, collaboration is so vital, like to
Hmm.
just like growing and just getting to wherever you want to go. Really,
Yeah, man,
teamwork.
it's all about relationships. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Absolutely. But like at the time too, like I wasn't working with like the biggest producers too, like collaborating. I was just like working on like cool stuff and just like working on my like honing my craft, you know what I mean? And just like getting great at what I, do.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's a great point. I mean, you mentioned honing your craft. I had somebody on the channel recently that was talking about they were a mixer in the studio, and they were talking about how we so often like we compare our mixes to these, uh, you know, like these Grammy winning songs or whatever the case is, and we're like, why doesn't it stand up against it? And it's like, well, you're comparing a 26-year-old kid's my mix to somebody that's literally been doing it every day, 8 hours a day for the past
Exactly.
30
Yeah.
years. Like it shouldn't sound that. I mean, like it shouldn't sound. So don't like.
Yeah.
You got to remember that stuff, and it's all about
Or
honing the craft and getting better and better and better and better.
absolutely, man. That's 100% facts.
100%, absolutely. So, with that being said, how did you? Hold on, I'm just reading some of my notes over here.
No, no, you're good.
Okay, so let's talk about your own music actually. So you
Okay.
also release music. So let's talk a little bit of that. You want to talk about explain what like maybe genre, and then I have some follow up questions about
Man,
that.
it's kind of like I feel like my stuff, I'm still like out like what I'm doing, because I it's just kind of like I wanted to like my music to feel like just like musical like recess in a way, like
Wow, cool.
just like you know what I mean, just like experimenting. And I also want to, once I start dropping like original music, I want to help out like artists that I know that are super talented, that need to be discovered. And like I want to do that. And it's just like I love house music, I love like Latin music, moombahton, like all that, trap, of course, like melodic, like future bass stuff. I don't know, like I'm literally like all over the place. So it's I don't know. I'm just like working on it still, really.
No, that's really cool.
I'll figure it out as I go.
I love that mentality. So how do you find the balance of working on your music versus working on something that might go to Justin Bieber or something that might go to Lecrae or anybody? Like how do you find that balance?
I don't know. I'm just kind of like whenever I have like free time, like, oh, let me just work on some random like cool fun stuff.
Hmm.
And and I'll just do that. Or it just depends on like, and like sometimes I'll get a phone call from Pooh Bear. Oh, I'm working on this, thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me just knock that out really fast. I don't want to miss an opportunity. I always like to like take advantage of opportunities as well. So,
Yeah, it's
but I
tremendous.
don't know, it's still like an ongoing like kind of balance. It's a little bit of a challenge. you know, because there's like obviously more opportunities to work with, you know, more people and blah blah blah. So I'm still figuring it out.
I hear that. I think we'll be figuring out until the day we die.
For sure.
That's funny. So tell me a little bit about your process, your creative process. I know that at least for myself, it changes every time and it's different for everybody. But like, if you, what are some of your processes that you do to in creating?
It usually, I feel like usually starts with the melody and like, or like a bass line or something. I used to like start with just drums because I love drums. Like growing up, that was like my thing. Me and my sister would just like jam out in like the living room whenever my parents would leave to like grocery shop. Uh,
Ah,
she would, Linda would like, or my sister would turn on the radio and she would like pretend to like sing like into a, you know, a brush, of course. And then I had like two pencils or like two pens and I just like being on something, pretending I was like drumming. And I remember doing that and I was like, whoa, this is great. Like, I don't know. I just love like the drum, like percussions and stuff. Like now I can afford a drum set and stuff
yeah,
like that. So I can't really like, maybe I'm actually really good at the drums. I don't know.
that's cool, man.
Like a lot, like actual drums.
Well, what's
But
actually kind of funny is I don't know if you've ever realized that, but all the genres you mentioned, EDM,
mhm.
Latin music, trap, are all super heavy drum forward, which is
Yeah,
just
for sure.
kind of interesting to see that correlation from you being so interested even as a kid,
That's true, man. Dang, I didn't even notice that.
which is just an interesting insight. So okay, so sometimes you start with the melody, sometimes you start with the drums. Then do you
Yeah.
start to fill on words or chords or how does that go?
Uh, what you said? Fill in the chords.
Yeah, like so when you get the drum pattern or you get the melodic pattern for say the bass, right? Where do
Mhm.
you go from there? Do you have a typical pattern or do you follow a certain pattern or do you
I
just
just
is it kind of
experiment. I kind of just throw things at the wall. I'm just
yeah.
like, "Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds terrible. That's
Mm.
trash. You know, this is amazing." It just kind of happens like that, really.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know how many people realize how much you throw out as a producer before you actually find the right things. Like
Or
I've been starting to make my songs on live stream lately, so I can get like feedback from the subscribers and everything, and just fun. It's fun. They see the progression of the song as it just starts, but it's
yeah,
funny as a creative. I forget how much I throw out before I even find it, the right stuff, until you're
yeah,
on a live stream, because then you realize how bad that sounds and you realize that they hear how bad that sounds is, but like I would never have noticed how bad it was by myself, and now I'm like just conscious of like, oh wow, it took me 6 sounds or 6 hours, whatever the case is, to find that
yeah.
one sound, but everything else sounded like butt the whole way beforehand, and it's
That's
actually a
true.
really interesting reminder.
For sure. And it's like when you're in the studio with like other producers or other people, when you're working, you're like, oh man, this is kind of embarrassing. Like, especially in the beginning when you're first starting to like collaborate, like, you know, with people, it's like, you're kind of like, oh, it's kind of like you're on the stage. You're kind of just
Yeah.
messing up a ton and it's
So
funny,
let
I
me
guess.
ask you that actually, now that you're not that person,
Yeah.
when you're now that you're not that person, and now that you're probably in the position where there are newer talent in front of you, do
Mm.
you care like that they're new? Do you is it like we were your nerves justified looking back, or do you now being in that position be like, oh, it's just we're just chilling. I don't really even care like this kid's new kind of thing. Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
I mean, oh, like, as in, like, just like throwing stuff at the wall type thing still?
Yeah, yeah. So you said like you were super nervous before, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
now that you're in the position of the like person watching these new people, like do you think that they should be
Oh, yeah.
nervous kind of thing, or now you're like, oh, now that I knew if I knew that they felt the way I feel right now, I would be nothing to be nervous about. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, I'll definitely like remind, the younger generation or whatever to like, just we're just out here learning. Like even like just we're just throwing stuff at the wall, man. Don't take yourself too seriously. Like,
Mm,
you know, like you'll find the sound. It's gonna be all right. Like that's really it, honestly.
yeah. If you could give one tip on how artists can connect with other artists or connect with other producers, what would you say that would be?
To connect with other artists
Yeah.
and
Because we were talking about how a lot of opportunity comes through meeting people and working with other people, but sometimes people don't need. And you don't have to go into specifics. I'm just like just a
okay.
general idea. Like, But sometimes, like when I first started, I was like, okay, I get that I need to meet some people, but like I don't even know how to meet these people. You know what I mean? I don't know how to start with, So if
Oh,
you had
for
one tip
sure.
kind of thing, what would you say?
Man, just put yourself out there. Really, that's really what I did. Like on the come up, like I would do those beat battles and stuff, and like I was really like not the most social like person, and I really like challenged myself. I was like, I'm gonna just go out there and just like it's gonna be awkward, whatever, but it's gonna help, just
Yeah.
put yourself out there and just kind of put yourself in like uncomfortable situations and just figure it out. Like don't be too hard on yourself too. Like you know what I mean? Like there's people out there that want to help you and
Hmm.
and yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
I love that, man. I just want to mention a quote that you said in that other video too. Just completely off topic, but I always thought it was really funny because I say this all the time.
Yeah.
You mentioned YouTube University,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
which is
I
I'm
love
like
that term.
I what was that?
I love that term. I don't know.
Yes, I dropped out of college similar to you, and I say, yeah, I didn't go to college. I went to YouTube University, dude. I learned everything I know, a lot, not everything. Did a couple of years of high school music theory and stuff, but I learned so much through YouTube, man. That's it.
That's literally how I remember when YouTube like first started. I feel like this is an old person now. I remember when YouTube first started.
Yeah.
But
In
like
20 years, we'll say I remember when TikTok first started too.
yeah, for real. But I remember when it started and I was like, I want to take advantage of this before, you have to pay for it. I was like, it's free. There's no ads. There was no ads
Oh
at the
yeah,
time too.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
wow, this is great. I'm just gonna
yeah.
just like learn everything I could. That's really how I learned Free Loops, like
Mm-hmm.
just through YouTube. Same thing with Ableton, honestly, too. Like, cause I just switched to Ableton like a couple of years ago, like probably like 5 years ago or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, man. I
Yeah,
use Logic, and I learned everything I know
Logic is
about
great too.
Logic. So much stuff on Logic, man.
Yeah.
I love that. So I want to be respectful of your time. I like ending every conversation with one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you started. What would that be?
You can't do anything amazing without a great team of people around you. I
Amen
feel
to
like,
that.
yeah, I
That's
feel
good.
like the self-made thing isn't really a thing.
Wow,
You know,
that's cool.
I feel like,
That
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, I think that's great, man. I think that's a really really good point.
I don't know.
You can only get yourself so far, and then you need at some point there needs to be, and even when you're getting yourself so far, there's been so many people, like for example, I don't have management yet, but do you know how
Mhm.
many people poured into me showing me how to do this on the guitar, or spending an hour showing me how a condenser microphone works when I was 16, like
Yeah.
it was not all me. It was the music pastor at my church. It was my friend who played the guitar. It was it's like all these people. So you're right. And then
That's
once you start to get more and more, you obviously get like an actual team around you. But you're
sure.
right, absolutely. That's a
That's,
great point.
thank
Screw
you.
self-made. Hashtag screw
Yeah.
self-made.
Hashtag.
Nah, man, I really appreciate that. So I want to thank you for your time. What's the best way for people to support what you're up to these days?
I'm on Instagram at Shndo. So it's at SHNDOOOO. There's four O's. I'm working on getting it to just the one O. It's just the one O. But
What do you have to do? You
yeah,
have to find that person, DM him, and be like, "Hey, I'll pay you this much money to give me that."
I mean, honestly, it's like it's not even like an active profile, but like we're working on it now. Like management and like my attorney, we're figuring it all out. So it's gonna work
Oh,
to get this
that's
handle.
that's so funny, man. Who would have thought 20 years ago you'd have a lawyer trying to get an
I
online
know.
name? Holy smokes, man.
Insane, man.
I love it. Well, if you could hang out for 30 more seconds, I want to say, first of all, thank you to you, but also thank you to everybody that stuck around for this chat. I hope you really learned something cool. Leave a comment down below if something you did learn, and go follow Shndo on all social media platforms, and go stream his work in Peaches and Church Clothes, but also his original stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, definitely consider subscribing on whatever platform you're listening to, whether it be YouTube or podcast. And best way to support the channel is listening to my own music, so I appreciate all the support. I'll see you guys in the next video, and have a great rest of your day. God bless and peace out.